Hey y'all, welcome to another live stream with Hygraph. This is another solo stream. This is another nice, low-key, chill stream. Just me, just you, hanging out here working on Astro. If you remember, a couple weeks ago, we had another one of these nice, chill, low-key streams where we did some live coding, and we built a little bit of a page builder, a marketing website with Astro. Let me get things up on screen here, where we went through and we created, using Hygraph components, a page builder, right, for a marketing website. So we had kind of this idea of like a hero area. We had this kind of grid area for call outs for like a product feature set. We had testimonials, this erudite testimonial here from me. We've got a blog grid, which we didn't code 2 weeks ago. I coded offline, and we'll get into that in a second. And we also have another testimonial. So you can see here, it kind of works with any which way we need things to go. And that's all built within components within Hygraph. So here I've got my Hygraph Studio, where we have the home page. And here's that title that's going to go into the page title for the HTML. But then we have the hero here. We've got a couple button components inside of that. We've got an image that's going to go to the right. And we've also got some enumerations here, right? We've got this idea of a secondary style as well, where if I were to save and publish this, the homepage will change out as well. Let's get that saved and get to the homepage. And you can see a very different style for this top section, all based on some different styles. You can see we've got the buttons, and the buttons themselves have those enumerations as well. So if we viewed this button here, we have a secondary style for it. And all of this is kind of giving options to editors. And it's all, something went wrong. Let's refresh that and make sure that it's saved. All right, see another page, secondary style. All right, it did save. We just had a little front end issue there. And you can see here's that secondary style. Obviously, we do want this to be primary style, and we want the overall stripe to be primary style as well. That is the idea of what this homepage area was supposed to be. So let's save that in, and we'll come back, and there it is. So again, we can just change out options as we go, and kind of tweak the design. You can see we can even build like a product page with a different hero functionality, same image, because we were live coding and I didn't need to go and add a whole bunch of images, but you can see everything's a little bit different pulling in there. Then I took a little bit of time offline, because I actually think this is going to be one of our next starters that we release, both in Astro, but we'll also convert it into Next and Nuxt, and perhaps SvelteKit and Remix as we go. because we got a couple implementation guides of those coming as well. But I took some time and I decided that I wanted a couple additional pieces of functionality. I wanted to make sure we could have the blog grid that you kind of see down here, right? This is from the blog, has a little bit of text that describes it, and then pulls in a couple blog posts from a new area inside of Hygraph, new content area, new schema, just called Post. And it's just a series of blog posts. I pulled these from one of our other starters. I even pulled the design a little bit of the blog posts themselves from another starter. It's a little bit simplified from our blog starter, but it's a similar functionality. So take a look at that real fast so we know what we've got here. What I ended up doing, let's get out of utils, was creating inside of our pages a posts directory, and the posts directory has both an index page, which is going to be our blog list page, as well as a dynamic route in Astro called slug. That's a param that we then pull in, and we find all the information based on that that slug. So in Astro, for the most part, what I end up doing is I make a request to Hygraph. I get all of my blog posts. I bring them in, and I get all the information I might need, including we're using rich text to do the actual blog posts themselves. And then I render that out onto the page. So you can see we've got item. Item is coming from astro.props, and that is going to have the slug that we need, and it's going to match up. And so we've got an item.title, and then we have the rich text. Now I've created a specific component in Astro for this, which is a rich text component. We don't have an official adapter for rich text in Astro, but just so you can see how potentially easy that is, let's go to our components, and you can see that I built a rich text component. All it's going to do is it's going to take the content, the renderers, and the references and run it through our AST to HTML string renderer, and just spits that back out in a div. That's the content of that div. So you can really pass in any renderers you want. You pass in the references and the content, and you get the page here. You can see when we look at this page, it also works for our images. All of that just flows through the rich text. We get it in raw JSON and spit it out as HTML, which is a really handy feature. I highly recommend, if you are making pages in Hygraph that use a large amount of text, don't go with the markdown editor, go with the rich text editor, and don't go with the HTML or the markdown data that you get back out, although you certainly can. Go with the rich text JSON AST data so that you can convert it however you need to. And depending on how far we get today on everything, maybe we do a little something with that. But I also got some resources for you on our YouTube channel around rich text. So what I thought we would do today is add a little interactivity to the website. So we have a blog. Each of our blog posts could potentially have a comment form. So that would give us a chance to play with mutations in Hygraph, so we can actually create content in Hygraph. We build a new schema for our comments, and then that will also allow us to set up this version of Astro in hybrid mode so that we can use server functions. So we can actually set up an API route, ingest any content from the front end, and then mutate it into Hygraph to add the comment and attach it to a blog post. So I think that's the direction we're going to go. But if anyone has any questions or wants us to pivot at any point, this is, again, a very low-key, no worries kind of stream. So let me know over in chat in whatever platform you're on. It could be down below, could be over to the right, wherever it is. Let me know what you're looking for today, and we'll pivot. No worries. So in order to do what we need to do, I figured we'd start by setting up our schema. So I could, in theory, add another component and put the component on each of the blog posts and have like a multiple component array for the comments. However, I think it's often best to go ahead and separate that out as its own model, because I don't want to mutate my post just to mutate a comment, right? I want to be able to access the comments individually. I want to be able to publish them, draft them at a moment's notice. And then also, I might want to use them. Maybe it makes sense to pull them out and access them in the middle of a blog post. That might also make sense. So there's a lot of different things we can do, and I think it'd be best if we set it up as its own content model inside of the system. So to do that, let's head over to our schema section, and we're going to create a new model, add model. For this, we're going to call it comment. and then comment. There we go. You can see it automatically gives us the API ID of comment, plural, and I'm not going to add a description right now because for the most part, editors won't be editing this, right? They'll either be publishing or unpublishing, really. So let's add this model and let's add a few fields to that model. So first I'm gonna give it a single line text, and I think I want to have a name field on my comment form. So we'll just have a name here. We'll use it as a title field. Not going to localize it, not going to make it required. It's not going to be unique because potentially there's multiple Bryan Robinsons in the world. So let's leave that. And I'm going to make the field visibility be read only, which might seem a little bit strange. Like, why wouldn't an editor want to be able to edit this? But in thinking about it, I don't necessarily know that I want an editor able to edit a comment. That feels wrong. They should either publish it, hide it, something like that. Let's leave it in read write for the moment, but let's think about resetting that as we go. I want to add some content in before we make the API route. So let's add that. And we're probably going to do that for all these fields, right? Make them actually it'll be API only, no, read only in the editor. And then we have to figure out what we want to allow for our comments. I don't think I want to go down the rabbit hole of rich text. I don't think I want it to be markdown. I think I'm just going to have it be just static text. I think that's going to be the way to go on this. I don't want a lot of attack avenues, right, on this. So let's add a body, and actually let's call it comment body. And then I don't need the API ID to have it say comment body. So we'll just have that be body. Don't need to use that as the title field or allow multiple values. And again, I'll probably come back and make this read only for making it so you can only edit it via the API, but we'll do that in a minute. And then let's add a field. So we can have draft and we can have published, but I think it would also make sense to have like a moderated field on this, right? To make it so that an editor could come in and say, this is not appropriate, right? This is something that shouldn't be shown. They could draft it, but then somebody comes in later and doesn't know that it was a bad comment or a comment that shouldn't be shown and just sees a draft, right? So they publish it. So let's make an actual field that allows for our editors to mark something as approved or declined. So let's see. We want that to be, I'm always missing it here. Let's find it. We have a search field in Studio. We don't want it to be a Boolean. Actually, I guess this would need to be an enumeration, right? So let's add a new enumeration that is our comment status. Because I could make it a Boolean, but I think that this will be better to have multiple states. So we'll have display name of comment of just approved. We will have declined. And we will have waiting. Right, so we'll put it into waiting state, and then we'll have the ability to approve or decline. Let's see. This is probably a fine order. That's all good. So we'll add that enumeration in. You can see it will join over here in the enumeration section. We can come back to our comment model, and we can add that enumeration. Let's find it in our field types. There it is. And from here, we'll say status, and we will choose the comment status as our enumeration. Allow multiple values, no. Localize, no. All of that's good. We definitely will keep this one as read write. This will be what our editors use the most. So let us add this in. Did I click add? Oh, API ID status is a restricted word and cannot be used. Okay, that's fine. So comment status is what we actually want on that. I didn't realize status was restricted. That's good to know. Good to know. I mean, it's probably the safe bet on that, right? All right. So we now have a name, a comment body, and a status. Let's go ahead. Oh, and we also need a reference. We need to tie these together. So let's add a relations field to this as well. So we've got a content relationship here. We're going to, let's see, only one model should be referenced. That's fine. So we want that model to be the post model. And this is a two-way reference because we want to be able to access it from both sides, just in case. and we want to allow multiple comments per post. So this will make it a many to one. We don't want multiple posts per comment. That doesn't make much sense. We configure the reference on both sides. So the post will be post on the comment, and the comment will be comment on the post. And we will add. I'll take a second so you can see now we've got this. And when we go over to our posts area, you can see there are comments that we can add. I'll probably also disable that. Let's go ahead and do that because I think that's the way to go. That would potentially confuse editors, and I don't want to confuse editors when I can avoid it. So you can see here, it added that field for us when we added this reference field. So let's go ahead and make this one API only. Let's see. This will be for the comment on the post. So this will be API only. So we'll update that. And that will hide it in the editor UI so that our editors don't see it. And then we can go in and we can add our first comment so that we've got it available. So if we go back and go to our comment model, which is where we would be adding it in our API anyway, let's add a new entry. This is Bryan from Hygraph. This post is amazing and allows me to know exactly what's going on. Well done, author. All right, status. We know this is a good one, so we will set it to approved. And then we're going to add it to a post. Let's add it here to the Content Federation one and save and publish. So this will also be one of those things that in the editing process, right, we'll want to make sure that we have the ability for the editors to get in here and publish these as they go. Yeah, and Romina mentioned in the chat here that the new Studio UI for the enumeration's way better than the old one. Again, kudos to the team that worked on that, both from an editor and a developer experience perspective. All right, so we have our first one. We'll worry about the restrictions later. We'll set that up on the front end. Let's go ahead and modify our GraphQL query to get our comments. So let's head on into our posts.slug and let's get inside of our posts query that we have here. Let's add it to the top so I don't lose my place here. Let's actually grab all of this so we can play with it in the API playground. I'm much preferring that overall. Let's grab this, head over to the API playground, make sure that we've got this. Oh, because I needed this. All right. There we go. Likes that a lot better. Okay, so you can see we got all the content coming in. Let's go ahead and add in on our posts. Let's find, it's all expanding because all the stuff that we've added to it. Let's find our comments. Let's see. Comment, here it is. So it's a reference to multiple things. We could get the first 10, first 100. 100's the max we can get, and then we'd have to get into pagination, which I don't think we'll get to today. But we need the body. We'll need the comment status. We'll need the name. And we won't actually need the ID on this, but we'll see if we end up needing it later on. So for our comment, we're going to add this. And you can see if we hide the content, there's no comments on the first one, which is as expected. And then on this other one, we have an array of comments, body, comment status, and name. So now we can use that in our front end, in our Astro build to display. So let's add that in here. Let's get this indented, save that in, and now we can loop through that on our blog post. Let's, for the moment, this isn't where I would want to add it long term, but just so we can play with it a little bit easier, let's add it above the content so that we can see it. And then we're going to take the item dot, what are we looking for? Comment. So if there's an item dot comment, which it's not liking right now, does not exist. Are you sure it doesn't exist? Comment on each post. I'm pretty sure it exists. Let's console log this real fast just to make sure it does before we go any further. So let's take a look at item on this. All right, so we've got all the HTML. Woo! All right. All right, so comment is null on one, which makes sense, but that shouldn't give us that error. And then let's refresh the other page. Blog posts, content federation. All the HTML. Look at all that data. So it exists. It exists. I don't know what TypeScript is complaining about. It might be just forgetting, might not know yet that we have it, something like that. So we want to check out item.comment, and if it exists, we'll do a new component. And for that, let's see, div for each one. And then let's, for now, get maybe an H. Let's just get the comment body. And since we know it's just raw text, let's put it inside of a paragraph. So we'll actually get the item.comment.body, I think is what we called it. Let's save that. Let's get rid of that console log so it's not there anymore. All right. So it's not pulling in yet. It should be appearing in between these two. Let's inspect and see if we're at least getting that paragraph tag in between. All right. Looks like it's supposed to be pulling in here, and it's not yet. All right. So why would it not be? Oh. Oh, because I'm not actually mapping through it. So we want to take item.comment.map. Y'all, I've been on vacation since last Thursday, so this is my first code of the week. So that's where we're at now. So we're going to have the comment as our property there, and then we don't need item dot anymore. We just get the comment body. There it is. So here's the comment. So we want to also say if there are comments, item comment. Actually, whether or not there are comments or not, what we want is maybe an H2 that just says comments. So we know what we're looking at. So we have comments. And for the moment, let's just be bad and put an HR here. So let's just separate those out just so we can see what we're working with a little bit better. All right, so this has a comment body. Let's put maybe an H4 down here that's going to be our comment.name. Yep. And we will add in here posted by, and then it probably makes sense to add the created at time and date to this as well. So we'll want it to be here in our headline at the date. All right. So let's go ahead and grab that on our comment as well, which should be the created at. And we'll leave it. Uh-oh. Didn't like that. It's probably because that's not actually what that's supposed to be. So let's figure out. I think it is what it's supposed to be. Let's take a look. Hide that post, hide that content. Yeah, it's there. All right. Did I typo it? All right. Let's see. I did. I put create at instead of created at. So now we got the created at, which means that I can, instead of date here, say comment.created at. And of course, it will be ugly, and we'll deal with that later. But you can see here it was created at this date time string. Super nice, but we'll, again, format that later on. And we'll do that just via a little script in pure vanilla JavaScript in the front matter to organize that. So you can see now we're getting this. We could add a little bit of Tailwind style to this as well. Since we're already doing that, let's put this on a new separate line. And let's say class equals, let's add padding y, py, right? Py of 5, my of 5, and let's add border top 2. I'm not great. Oh, yeah, there we go. Except for we probably want it to be border bottom. And again, we'd want this to be probably with an nth child, and I'd have to go do research on nth child um, for Tailwind, but that allows us at least to remove our HR here and deal with that in that way. Again, let me know if you have any questions in the chat, and we will answer those as we go. All right, so we have a comment. The comment is pulling in, and if we go to our other post, another thing I did off stream is I added a navigation. I added a mobile navigation. So let's go to blog posts. Let's grab the other one. You can see there's comments, so we probably need a null state of some sort. So instead of doing this style of checking, let's actually do if comment is greater than 1. Display that. Else, let's say no comments yet. Post the first one. All right. So we want to say if item. Let's leave that just in case is greater than 0. This goes into the style, and then we'll say else. Uh-oh, got something going wrong here. If else, that's getting there. This has both my parentheses, which I need. And then we've got that one. Hold on. Expected an expression. Can I not do it this way? I thought I could just straight up do a conditional inside of these brackets. Maybe we need... we can make it a ternary, though. So item display this. All right. And then else no posts, no comments yet. Be the first to leave one. And then we need to close our parentheses. All right, that should be what we want. No errors. Good. And yeah, here we go. Be the first to leave one. Perfect. All right. Again, I would potentially look at doing a full conditional around that, a full if-else statement. However, Astro wasn't liking that. So I got to do some research to see what I need to wrap it in, basically, is the issue there. All right. Item comment greater than 0. All right. So now we also need a form. We need to actually display this so that people can add it in. So let's go ahead and put that here. And let's actually have a comment form component. And I know that we'll need our blog or our post ID to be passed in here. And then we'll actually need to create this. So let's go ahead and make sure we're getting our post ID, which we're not. Grab the ID. And this is going to be how, when we submit the form, we pass that information. A user doesn't have to worry about it. And we pass that in here as item.id. And then we go into our components and add a comment form.astro. And eventually, maybe I change this to be a dynamic island. I don't think I'm going to do that right now. I think we're just going to leave it as an Astro form. We're going to get some front matter here. And then we also will need to destructure the const post ID from the astro.props, right? Because the props are being passed into that component. And then we can actually have that display here just so we can confirm that it's there. So we save this in. We have a comment form.astro. We need to import it here, just like we did for the rich text. So import comment form from my components directory. I also did that offline too. I went back and I added some aliases to make things a little bit easier, slash comment form.astro. So you can see there is our ID there, just following that area. But we're gonna have a form here that takes care of that. So let's make our ugly form first and foremost. So comment form, we're going to have in here a form element. We're going to eventually add an action. That action's going to go to an API route. In fact, we might actually make it instead of doing like a React component, we might just do vanilla JavaScript because you can do that in Astro as well. And then we're going to have an input, which let's see if we can get the hidden input. Yeah, hidden input. Name is post ID, and the value will be equal to post ID. So this will be a hidden form field that automatically has this in here so that it can be sent along. And again, maybe if I add this in JavaScript, what we'll do is we'll go back and we won't need this anymore, although it's still good to have because if they have JavaScript turned off, we want to be able to have that in our post anyway. And Lo saying, Lo, I'm kind of shocked that you like ternary operators. Because they're not very explicit and they're honestly kind of hard to read. Like they're not great for education. They're not great for readability. They are super ergonomic though. So some good developer experience can be had there. All right, so we got a form has an input. We want a text input as well. That's going to be our name. So type equals text, name equals name. And then we also need a text area, so I'm going to make this one, that will have a name of body. And these always open and close. So in HTML, it's an open and close. We'll also need labels on these. I'm going to do the style of label where we will wrap them. But I'm still going to give it a for name. We're going to wrap it so that it also does everything that we need it to. And then we'll put a span in here as well that will be where we put the label. So this will be your name, and we'll have a text area that we will also wrap in a label as well. Label for body. All right, where we will have a span, and we'll say your comment. Let's see how bad this looks. Yeah, love when form fields don't look like form fields. Good stuff. But when we click on the label, I'm not getting it. Interesting. Anyway, so and then theoretically, if we inspect this, right, we'll see that third form field, which will contain a value of the post ID. And again, that's how we're going to associate when we do the mutation. We're going to pass that into Hygraph so that we can build the reference that we need to build. All right. And we also need a way to submit this. So we will need a button on this as well. Button, submit comment. And there it is. Again, no styles on this. We'll come back. We'll add that in. I'll probably grab some Tailwind UI if we have time today, or I'll come back in and clean it up as well. And let's put a small 3, add your voice to the conversation. Because, of course, we can't be like super chill about it. We have to like add your voice. It's important, right? All right. So we have that. We have our form fields, which let's see. I wonder real fast. I don't know. I think I'm using pros already. So I wonder if I can just add pros around this. Doesn't look like it changed anything. Yeah. That's all right. You can see like we're using Hygraph type, or not Hygraph, Tailwind typography, but it is not for form fields. Let's actually go see if we can grab a form field, because it's going to bother me if we don't have some styles, right? And for the most part, I built this using the free pieces of Tailwind UI. So let's see if we have a free form here. We do. All right. So let's grab some code. Here's our label. So let's add the label stuff here. So class equals all that. And then let's grab, do we like the look of this? Yeah, it's not bad. Let's grab wow, there's a lot of markdown. What are we getting from that markdown? Username. So we got a label here. Okay, this is inside. I don't really want that, but let's grab this. Let's grab the shadow. The rings and ring sets are all fine. Focus within, that'll give some accessibility stuff. And let's do all of that. That should be fine. Again, just grabbing all of this from Tailwind UI so that we can move on. Uh-oh. Did I not close something properly? Here it is, right there. All right. So when we come back, first one has at least a little bit of new stuff. And let's grab all this again and put it on our input for our text area. All right. And then each of these, let's see, what do you have going on here? That looks decent. They're stacked. So let's grab this for, looks like each of the inputs. So let's see, let's follow their HTML a little bit closer. And let's put class equals, all that good stuff. Go here. The label can now not wrap the input. Get that. And then let's do the same thing for our second one as well. And let us, do they have in this a text area? They do. So let's grab the class from the text area. Look at all that. So many classes in Tailwind, y'all. All right. So text area, instead of this, which is what we have for our input, let's put it for the text area version. And then we got the div. We need to close our div around this. And let's close the label early. All right. Well, oh, okay. So that div actually was for, all right, let's get rid of the grid stuff on each of these. We can add a margin top to both. It's weird they would set it up that way. Again, because they're doing grid-based stuff. All right, that's fine. We'll go with that. And let's grab the button styles as well. Just so we've got everything consistent and looking decent. So we can make ourselves a little bit happier on that. There we go. I mean, not great, right? But fine. All right. So we now have a name. We've got comment, and then we can submit that comment. So what we can also do is, I think I'm going to do this, like I said, in JavaScript, but we also need to add an action. So we're going to send this to a route that we're going to create. That's going to be our API add comment route. And this will just fire when I click the submit button. It's going to go here, but this does not exist yet. So we need to fix that. We need to actually have it exist, and we need to set it up as a server route, right? So to do that, I already have the documentation out because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do this straight from memory. So to do a server endpoint, an API route, as we might call it in like a next or a next, first we need to enable SSR in some way, whether that's hybrid or turning the entire application into SSR. For me, I like that we're rendering a lot of static HTML, and I'm going to keep rendering static HTML. So we're going to do this as hybrid. So you can see we're going to need an SSR adapter and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's add an adapter first. I'm probably going to host this on Vercel, which, hey, look, we already have the code here. And the thing I love about Astro, I talked about it on the last Astro stream, is that the CLI is just top notch. It's really great. So let's use the CLI. We're going to npx astro add Vercel, and it's going to walk us through everything we need on this. Yep, we want to add that adapter. And this is so that when we host it, all the edge functionality and all the server functionality we need will be there. Now I'm going to have to go change this because it is coming from server, but I want to be the hybrid approach. But that should be as easy as going into the config that it creates for us right here. And we're going to call this hybrid, which if I remember correctly, and let's check that real fast, the hybrid methodology is going to pre-render to HTML by default, and then we add something to our route that we want to be dynamic to make it so that it can be server rendered. So you can see here, the default is server rendered, and you can opt into HTML building. Here, you opt out of HTML building, and I want everything HTML as far as I can make it. All right, so we've done that. Let's see if there's anything else we need to do to make this work. Yeah, here we go. So this is what it would be if we were opting in. Let's see what it looks like. So this is what it will look like if we're opting out. And actually, this is great. This is pretty much what we need. So we're going to create a new route in our pages. It's going to be in the API folder because that's the route that we gave it. And Astro functions on directory-based routing, file-based routing. So API slash, oh no, I've forgotten. Add comment. At this point, what's it need to be? .js. Oh no, I navigated away and it just saved that file. Great. .js. And it's going to be roughly this, right? It's not going to be this functionality, but you can see what we're going to do. Actually, we're going to make it a post request, and then we're going to do some stuff with it. So let's go back one page. And here you can see everything that we're going to need to do. Here's where we do the get, but we want a post. So let's make sure that we do post correctly. And let's put that here. All right. I'm not currently using types, so let's get that type out of the way. All right, so we export a const called post that matches our HTTP methods, and then we're going to get the request from Astro or from the code, and then we can do whatever we need to with that request. So let's actually take a look at that. We'll console log the request. I like to put it in curly brackets. So Lowe's actually asking, how do you get the dual terminal view in VS Code? Romina is saying you can have several with Command Shift. I've never done that, actually. What's that do? That's not doing anything for me. But the way I do it is I click this little split terminal view, and it adds that in. So if I need a third one, I absolutely can have it. The weird thing is I actually don't know how to close it other than I end it. You can clear terminal, but I clear terminal by Control D inside that terminal, and that kills the process. So yeah, so I keep one piece of code. I keep whatever's running in my left one, and I keep adding whatever I need to have in my right one. Or if I end up debugging a lot, I kill this one, and I have more room to debug over here, and then I just spin it back up. And then I control tilde or control backtick closes them out. And that's what I do there. And they're still running in the background. They're just closed out. But we actually need it open because I'm about to console log the request here. So theoretically now, when I come here and I hit this endpoint with this information, we'll get some logging, although it's a 404 right now, which it shouldn't be a 404, but I already had export const pre-render equals true, but maybe I need to restart my server. So npm run dev. Yeah, as Lo says, it's the small stuff that can make a huge difference. Every like second or two of time save, I'm fully on board with, right? Like that helps in so many ways. All right. Why am I getting a 404 on this? What do you think about this terminal? Let's see. Cannot read property of undefined reading title. Interesting. It's not reading this. All right, let's go back and check our documentation. So let's add a server endpoint and make sure we're doing this properly. Everything described in the static files section can also be used in SSR mode. Files can export a GET. But unlike in static mode, when you configure server mode, the endpoints will be built when they are requested. Perfect. Let's see. Server endpoints can access params when exporting. Okay, I don't need to do get static paths right now. And they can return a response object. This is the get. And again, I've got all of this already. Let's see. Redirects. Don't need to do redirects around this right now. All right, so why is it not confirming that this exists? That's the current question. So does this need to be source pages methods? So, let's try, this is going to sound really weird. Let's try, I don't think it needs to be this, but let's try it anyway. No. All right. I've certainly made this work before, and I can make it work again. Cannot read properties of undefined reading title. So it's trying to read this as a page, which means, hey, it's in the pages directory, so that makes sense. However, it's supposed to be a special page that shouldn't have to worry about the layout that's happening. Ooh, everything's broken. Okay. All right, everything's broken. That makes way more sense. All right. So let's go back to our Astro config, see what's going on here. The output is hybrid. Let's just see what happens when we go server and see if that's the problem. No. All right, that's fine. All right, restarting. I was just talking about I18N. Okay, so this is working now. All right, that's fine. So let's try this again. Submit comment. Okay, so that's still broken, but the pages aren't broken anymore. I guess static paths route pattern was matched. Okay, so it thinks it's trying to get static paths. Possible dynamic route being matched at source pages. Oh, no. Okay. Because it's trying to match this. Interesting. So because of our page builder, things are going wrong. Just out of curiosity, let's change this. Let's just make this pages / slug. Yes, we want to move that. This is going to break a whole bunch of stuff, right? But let's just see if it fixes this. Okay. It is no longer trying to match that, I don't think, which is a step in the right direction. All right. So it's just not finding that now. All right. I really don't think we ever needed that. All right. Let's follow. They've got actually what we're doing. They actually have a recipe for it. I love recipes. Let's find form. Build forms with API routes. That's exactly what we're doing. All right, project with SSR, output server, or hybrid enabled. We do have that. Let's go ahead and move our pages out of this pages directory because I don't think that ends up being the issue. Let's get that back to where it was so that we have pages that will render. We do. All right, so back to the documentation. We're going to build a form. We're not going to worry about the UI framework integration yet. We're going to grab, let's see, getting API route. That's the type, which again, we're not doing TypeScript right now. We have source pages, API, feedback.ts. So in our case, it'll be source pages, API, and then add comment.js. Got all that. So this should be, oops, hit a button. Woo, I'm hitting spacebar. There we go. All right, so we'll grab this. This goes here. Again, we don't have types at this point. So export const post equals async. We're doing pre-render equals false to make this a server route. And we're console logging the request and returning a response, which should all be fine. This is still working, submit, and this is still not working. I know that we have a little bit of an audience going, so if anyone is seeing what I'm missing, I would appreciate that in the comments. Let's see. See, it's still doing this, but we're matching that pattern. That's, again, the problem. Astro, opt out of dynamic route params. Let's see. Redirects, dynamic routes in SSG mode. Let's see if there's any. I think there's an opt-out kind of idea in get static paths. Params, data passing with props, paginate. This is just the reference guide. All right. We might need to move those things into pages after all. But again, that doesn't feel like the issue. Get static path route pattern was matched, but no matching. Oh, because that's for favicon. Okay, that's fine. Like that's not actually the issue then. That's just a different issue altogether, which is something that we can fix later on as well. All right, so let's go back. Don't need anything about routing. So this feels to me like we're not actually in hybrid mode. It feels to me like we're not actually catching this route. So that means let's go back here and let's figure out what might be going wrong. So we export an async function that has the get or the post, and then we do stuff inside of it. But before that, let's see. Static files, overview. So we're not going to do any of this. However, I feel like there's probably something that we do need to do around it. Params and dynamic routing. We're not doing dynamic routing right now. The request object, yeah, we're already doing that. Everything described in the static, okay. All right, let's see. Add comment, is that the proper name? Appears to be. Now let's see if the issue is with the parameters being passed to it. No. Let's take a look at the network request and see what we're actually getting back. Show me everything. It is a 404. Let's see, headers. It's going to localhost 4321, which is correct, /API/add comment, which is correct. This is going to seem really strange real fast, but let's say testing.astro. And let's just grab all this. And let's go to API testing. Okay, so it's not the API directory that's causing the issues. It is something about this. It's going to seem really strange. Let's just confirm everything that's in our suspicions before we move forward. It really doesn't think that exists, which is interesting. Okay, so it's not going to be a problem there. It's going to be a problem here. All right, let's straight up change. Let's see. Astro config, server, add comment. We don't need this anymore. Restart the server. And we don't need the .json there anymore. No, still a 404. Well, we're going to get stymied on this if I'm being honest, because we are low on time. Let's see. Definitely want to change this back to hybrid. I mean, my assumption here is that we're missing something in our configuration. Yeah, exactly. This is both the fun and the terror of live code, right? Troubleshooting is actually a really important skill to learn. So figuring out what's going wrong is important. But let's hope that this ends with a good learning experience. Maybe we figure it out before, like right in the nick of time, right before the end. Let's see. All right, so that should bring us back to where we were in terms of everything else working. Let's get back to here. This is working. Marketing site's working. Blog posts, and each of our blog posts are working. Then we go to our add comment. I'm wondering, we're exporting, right? We are exporting. We're exporting the HTTP method, which is what we need to do when the request comes in. So there's, let's see, let's go back to the SSR documentation for enabling SSR. Because I feel like that's where we're making our issue here. So we installed the Astro.js Vercel. That went in and that changed the output to server. I changed it to hybrid, so we've got that. So we add the thing, configure for hybrid or server. Oh no, then do we have to do it in front matter then? No, because we're doing it as JS. So yeah, source page is my endpoint. Let's just follow this like straight up. Oh, follow this. And let's put this directly in pages instead of in the API directory. And what did they call it? They called it random number.js. And let's just follow it straight. Random number.js. Paste in exactly what they said. And let's go to our version, which would be random number. No, there's something wrong with what I'm doing. That's the worst. And again, I think this is going to be, let's make this instead of API, but that shouldn't matter, right? Can I move random number into API and still get it? That's our next thing to test. So this is no longer here. This should error. It does. Then we go to /API/random number and we get it. All right. We're doing something slightly wrong. So let's see if this exact code will run at our add comment. It does. All right. So let's see if this will run. It doesn't. So there's something wrong with the post. Get has been working, but post has not. And get works. Okay. So the code snippet in Astro's docs that we got for our post request is a problem. That's interesting. All right, so let's go back here and let's see what the issue might be. All right, so here's the post. And again, this is straight from their docs. And note that I'm probably going to click on this link or this link after our stream today. Export const post equals the request. So let's make sure that it's not just me insisting on JS instead of TS. That's the problem. Equals async. All right. Now, that one was async. So let's keep this one async. And interesting. All right. So next up, change this to TypeScript, which the nice thing about the way Astro works is that it really doesn't matter. It just lets me do it. Oh, you know what's happening? Oh, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous, and it took me way too long to see this. But browsers don't send post requests. Let's have a get request too, just so we can kind of see everything. That's ridiculous. I am perturbed at myself for that. All right. Don't want this to be TypeScript anymore. All right. Save that. There it is. Easy peasy. How did I not think about that? All right. So let's get that request. We'll start with it just in the get so that we know what we're working with. Console log request. And we'll also want it up here in the post. All right. Here's the request, which has a whole bunch of stuff, most of which we don't need because we're going to want just the body when we get that. All right, so let's go back to our form. This is going to be posting to this. So let's submit that. And test. We're console logging the request that we get in and submit. Cool, there we go. All right. So then we're going to get our body. Man, requests have so much information. That was a get request again, which is interesting. So we actually want this to be, where's my form? We need our form to be a post form. All right. So I'm trying to remember. We'll keep it as a get for the moment, just to make our lives easier. But ideally, this will be a post. And let's see if we can at least it's already at the hour. I'm gonna see if I can get a very quick mutation to run. So let's do that inside of our API playground. We are going to change over. I'm still getting used to the Studio playground. We upgraded graphical in Studio, and since we're moving fast, I need old school. All right, so we're not going to make a query. We're not going to have time to do this, I can already tell you, because we're going to have to set up new access tokens. All right, so we would be creating a comment where the body would be, we'd set it up as a variable, and the name would be set up as a variable as well. And let's see, the comment status would be set to waiting. And the post, we would connect to an ID, which would be the post ID. So this would end up being our mutation. And again, we're not going to have time to run it today, unfortunately. However, let's get back to our comment form here. So inside the post or inside the get, whatever we'd be running it inside of, let's just talk through the theory of this real fast. We would grab our client from our utils. I would need to add a new token to the client. So I'd add probably a new header, which would basically be this. This is not exactly what it would be, because it would actually be bearer plus, I'd set this in my environment variables, import meta, something like that, right? And we use the v keyword, I believe, to make it, actually, no, that would make it front end accessible. It'd be something like this, right? That sets a new header on this instance of the client that I set up using GraphQL request. And then we would say client request, and we would make our GraphQL query here. So we'd say our const query equals, it'd be GraphQL, which would be the mutation. We would do the create comment mutation. We need to pass it variables. So we'd say const variables equals, it would be an object like this. We wouldn't want it to be this though. We'd want it to be, anyway, it'd be on the body of our request or on the params of our request. we'll just do it hard-coded for the moment. And then we would send the query and the variables. And the variables would be, I don't think they'd be in quotation marks, if I remember correctly. It'd be along this line. Comment status would say is waiting. This would say, again, we're doing a post, which is a reference. The reference can either connect or create. We just want to connect to the ID that is the post ID. And then all this would fire and it would connect up. So if we had this set properly, which we don't, and again, if I do this right now, and I will do it, we'll get a 500 error. We'll get an authorization failure on this. So if we refresh, it'll try to run that. You can see here, it's getting all sorts of problems. And that's because, let's see, token verification failed, right? I'm trying to pass a token that doesn't exist. So that would be the theory here. And unfortunately, we didn't get to it today. But we'll have this built into the starter when it's ready to automatically have this. And we'll come back, maybe next week. I'm doing the stream next week as well. Maybe we can finish this and we can get some other stuff rolling on the Astro starter here. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I know we didn't quite get where we promised to get. If you do have any questions, I highly recommend that you join the community over at slack.hygraph.com. We do have the entire DevRel team in there. We've got our product manager, some of our engineers. They're all kind of hanging out, and we do answer questions regularly in the community at Slack. Anything that I did in Hygraph today, whether that was adding the model, connecting the models up, or even the queries that we ran, all of that is available in hygraph.com/docs, where we keep things as up to date as possible. And again, everything that we did today is in the free level of Hygraph, and you can get a free account at app.hygraph.com/sign up. So until next time, come join us in the community. Let us know if you have any questions, or if you're interested in more content like this, the live coding. If you have specific topics you want to find out, let us know. We're listening, and we will see you next time around. Thanks so much, y'all.